I'm a French girl. I'm 25 years old, but I was 22 when it happened. I was living with my boyfriend, ex now in a little flat in Paris. I was in a toxic and violent relationship. Moreover, I was suffering from a disease, so I couldn't go out with friends. So I spent most of my free time on the internet. I didn't have many friends. I was really lonely as I couldn't go out. Most of them abandoned me when I fell sick. The few friends that I had were living really far away. One day I had a big argument with my boyfriend. I was really sad and lonely, so I decided to chat with random people on a website. I met a guy. We had the same interests. We were both playing video games. A lot. We talked for 6 months every day. He was knowing that I was in a relationship, even if it was a terrible one. We'll call him Bobby. We decided to meet in real life. He was okay to meet me at my flat. At first, we were both really shy, but thanks to alcohol, we talked and laughed together. I was so relieved that finally I was having a friend to talk with. We were seeing each other at least once per week. I remember this as a happy time. We had so many common points, and he never forced me to go out. He was really helping me, and I was helping him. He was a depressed guy. He was thinking that he was ruining his own life. I wanted to help him as much as I could to give him self-esteem. I just wanted him to spend good time with a good friend. And for my 22nd birthday, my boyfriend decided to make a party, and he invited Bobby. He was my only friend that we were living not too far from my flat. And he invited 10 of his friends. I wasn't really happy with that. He knew that I didn't like when there's too many people. It tends to get me anxious and feel pressured. So I spent my entire night cooking and serving. I really couldn't enjoy the party, and then my boyfriend humiliated me in front of everyone, and I went to the bathroom to cry. Bobby joined me and tried his best to comfort me, and I was in a pure mental breakdown, so I told him everything about my boyfriend's behavior. I insisted on the fact that I loved him, but I will break up when it will be the right time. It was too dangerous to break up at that moment. As I was crying, he tried to kiss me. I stopped him. I didn't want to add a new problem in my life. It was already too difficult. I know that it's weird to say, but I was feeling betrayed. I was feeling that he was waiting for this moment to try something. He didn't react, opened the door and gave me a gift. It was a really beautiful necklace. I told him that I couldn't accept, it was too expensive, but he went out without a word. After this, I decided to put some distance between us. I didn't want to make him suffer. It's cruel to keep him as a friend if he wants more. I explained to him that if he wanted more, it will not be with me. I didn't want to cheat on my boyfriend, but if one day he wanted to talk to a friend, then he could contact me. And I didn't hear from him after this. A few months later, I received texts from him. It was really long, something like 20 texts. He was saying that he was really in love with me, that he wanted to save me, that I was his reason to live. I was shocked at first because the way he said it was really creepy. I explained to him one more time that I didn't need to be saved, that I was an adult. And even if my boyfriend was mean, I didn't want to break up. I wasn't feeling ready for this, and then I wasn't in love with him. We exchanged texts for more than 1 hour, but he didn't want to understand. Bobby was insisting a lot. My boyfriend was annoyed because I was receiving too many texts and phone calls. It was making me too anxious. I decided to turn my phone off and went to work. At this moment, I was working in a little restaurant. I was a waitress there, and I was taking commands by phone. The phone was ringing. I picked up the phone. I heard breathing at first, then I recognized the voice. It was Bobby's voice. I was feeling like I was in a horror movie. My bones froze. My entire body was shaking. I hung up almost immediately, but the phone rang again, something like 10 times, until my boss picked it up. It was 7 p.m. I was supposed to finish my work at midnight. At 11 p.m. I saw him. He came to my workplace and begged to talk to me. I was so afraid I couldn't talk. I ran into the kitchen, explained the situation to one of my coworkers. He took my place as a waiter, and I took his as a cook. Bobby left 30 minutes later. I was too afraid to go home alone, so my coworker dropped me off to my flat. My boyfriend was a night worker, so I was alone. I locked my flat's door, blocked Bobby's number, and I was ready to call the police. I didn't want to talk about it to my boyfriend. I already knew that he wouldn't help me, or that he would accuse me of being too provocative. Moreover, I didn't want him to fight with Bobby. Bobby to me was just lost. He didn't deserve to be beaten up by my boyfriend. The next day I had more than 100 block calls. I didn't sleep at all. I was exhausted. I was trying not to give him any attention. A month passed. He tried to come to my workplace many times, but my boss talked to him and called the cops. Then he never came back there. He was still harassing me, but I was ignoring it. I thought that he'll understand and finally leave me alone. I was afraid, so I tried to lodge a complaint with the police, but they refused it, as it was just a guy who's in love, so to speak. One day I woke up to go to work. My boyfriend was playing online video games, and he received a message. This was Bobby in the text. He was saying that he was in love with me, that we had made love many times, that I was a cheater and stuff like that. I was shocked. I didn't understand what was happening. My brain froze and I couldn't react. But thank God my boyfriend saw my blocked call. He was suspecting that Bobby was harassing me for a long time. Even if I never told him, he decided to block him too. Then he went to work. My boss called me and told me that I will begin 2 hours later today, and I was alone in my flat. I don't know how to explain it, but I was feeling that something would happen, and my heart was racing. I was feeling nauseous. Then I heard my doorbell ring 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 10 times. I couldn't stand or walk. My entire body was freezing up. I was feeling the tears of my face, but I couldn't react. I felt all of this was just some nightmare. I waited as silently as possible, as he was stalking me for a long time. He knew that I was supposed to work at this hour. I thought that he wanted to see my boyfriend, to manipulate him, as he wanted me to be single. And that was the best way. The doorbell rang again. I was supposed to go to work. It took all my courage, and I went out. It was him. He was crying at this moment. I wasn't afraid anymore. I was so angry, and I began to shout at him. He was trying to explain that he was so in love with me, he would die if I didn't give him the chance. He said that he talked to my boyfriend, that he would finally save me, and that even if I don't want to be with him, my boyfriend would have to kill him, so he wouldn't suffer anymore. Moreover, he admitted that he hacked my Facebook and Instagram account, so he knew that I wasn't hating him. I talked about the situation with my best friend. I was saying to her that Bobby was just unstable but not mean. That was more sad than angry about his behavior and stuff like that. I decided to run out, but he followed me and grabbed my arms when I was trying to escape by the stairs. I hit him. I begged him to let me go. I cried like I'd never in my entire life. I felt terrorized, angry. I just wanted to escape and run as far as possible. He pushed me against the door and told me these words: "If you refuse to have a conversation with me, I'll go to your boyfriend's workplace. I'll talk to him. Then he'll hate you as much as I love you. Maybe he'd kill me, but that doesn't matter." I was trapped. I couldn't escape. I didn't want to call the cops as they didn't help me at first. I decided to accept to have a conversation with him outside. After my work, he calmed down instantly, thanked me, and went out. When I arrived at work, I was still shaking. I explained everything to my coworker and boss. My coworker decided to stay in his car after work in front of the restaurant so that if I needed help, he would be there. At the end of my shift, Bobby was there. We sat outside and talked. He was repeating what he'd said to me 1,000,000 times already, again and again. Then I interrupted him calmly and said that nothing will ever happen between us, that I was afraid of him, and that he was poisoning my life. Moreover, he was putting me in danger. He stopped. It looked like he finally realized what he was doing. He pulled something out of his bag. It was a really big package, and he gave it to me. It was full of expensive items. I told him that I didn't want to accept it. At first, he told me that he bought this for me, so he couldn't keep it, as it would be a reminder of me. Then he kind of blackmailed me by saying that if I accepted this, he won't contact me ever again. I accepted. I was tired and I just wanted to go home and finally sleep. Then he said goodbye and went out sadly. That's not the end of the story. 2 weeks later, I was sleeping at one of my coworkers' places, who became one of my most precious friends. And at 5 a.m., I heard my phone ringing. I was too tired to answer, but I heard it again and again and again. It was some text from an unknown number. I opened it, and the first thing I saw was blood. Then there was a long text, but I didn't have the time to read it as I received other pictures. There was blood everywhere in the pictures. I woke up my friend, I showed her the pictures, and I was shaking so much. I couldn't understand what was happening. I received 31 pictures of mutilated arms, torsos and legs. On the last of them, I saw Bobby's face. I called Bobby's mother to explain her what was happening, and I recognized his bedroom in the pictures. Then my friend put my phone far from me. She was hugging me, and I was feeling so guilty, thinking that everything was my fault. Almost an hour later, I didn't receive another text or call, which was making me even more anxious. I thought that he was dead. Suddenly my phone rang again. I received a video of him, and he was in a hospital bed. He was trying to talk, but almost everything was unintelligible, except for a few words like love and promises. Bobby had tried to take his own life. He took drugs and cut himself. He was diagnosed as bipolar with a personality disorder. He stayed a few months at that psychiatric clinic. The last thing I heard about him was that he's on treatment and feeling better. I received the last text last year, and it was just, sorry. Since this day I moved out, I have a new job, a new place to live in, a different city, and a different boyfriend. Even if I'm still traumatized by it, I do think that Bobby isn't that bad of a guy. In France, psychiatric troubles are taken a little too lightly. Bobby needed help, and I really hope from the bottom of my heart that he's gotten it.